Hello, hi and welcome to another booktube video. In this video I'm going to be discussing the books that I read in April, doing my April wrap up, and also discussing my plans for May, which have completely changed again. I've completely railroaded myself, I don't know why I do it. Also, if you've noticed, I'm in a different position because I have a new bookcase. So it's still loads of room, thankfully. I'm keeping all my history and my Icelandic books over there, and then my classics and my Victorian literature down in the little case there. And then I'm just going to have this as my sort of historical fiction, gothic-y type fiction, non-fiction, academic books down here, and then just others as well. So yeah, welcome. So let's get cracking. So the first book I read in the month of April was The 14th Letter by Claire Evans. I really enjoyed this. It's what I would class as my comfort fiction. It's historical fiction. It's from the Victorian era. It's set in the Victorian era, should I say. But it's more sort of mystery. I don't want to say thriller, but it's yeah, mystery slash fantasy, if you like. But really enjoyable none the same. It follows a young budding lawyer who is an apprentice to a lawyer who goes to a client one day, a client he shouldn't do when his boss is out at court. And it all takes a turn for the worse from there. It all goes downhill for him, and he goes on a path of discovery, kind of discovering who he is, his own self-identity, and also getting into some mischief along the way, but you know, finding out his history. There's some really interesting characters in this. I love the character of Savannah Shelton. It's a really fun story. I don't know what else to say. I really enjoyed it. So that was the first book I read. The next book I read was The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. I love this. It's really gothic, spooky, great ghost story. One that I found was quite unique in terms of I haven't seen ghosts used in this way before. I'm not saying it hasn't been done before, but I really enjoyed the way that Purcell used the ghost story in this. It's split over 3 narratives. You've got one from the 1600s, I believe, and then the other 2 are from the Victorian era, quite close together. Whereas, so the 1600s one is kind of giving you the backstory, the ghost story, if you like, how it all started. And then we've got the Victorian era, we've got how this ghost story unfurls, and then we've got the main character in the asylum after the events of what have happened in this house. It's just brilliantly spooky, really unique. Yeah, great sort of gothic ghost town, loved it. And I'm excited to read the rest of it. I've got 2 other books on our bookshelf, so I'm excited to read those at some point as well. So the third book I read in the month of April was The Secrets of Heartwood Hall by Katie Lumsden, and I absolutely love this. It's such a great nod to Victorian literature. There's so many different little bits in there, some little hidden gems, references to Dickens, to the Brontes, but even just the way it's written as well, it's such a throwback to Victorian literature. Like, if you didn't know any better, you might even guess it's from the Victorian era, like some of the way it's written. I love the story in there as well. The little different subplots just keep you entertained. A hint of gothic, you know, is there a ghost? Is there not a ghost? And then obviously the twist at the end. I absolutely love this, and I can't wait for Katie's second book coming out this year. I'm definitely going to read that as soon as it comes out. Then I went on to my historical fiction. I read the first book from the long list of the Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction, and that was The New Life by Tom Crew. Absolutely love this. It's very literary fiction. It's heavy on the words, heavy on the thesaurus use. That's how I like to put it. I'm sure that Tom Crew didn't need a thesaurus. I'm sure he knows all these words. I don't. But loved it all the same. It's very... It deals with a subject that's close to my heart, so that could be one reason I really loved it. But I also found myself, you know, resonating with the characters and their plights as well. Not so much as my sort of story now, but from 20 years ago when I first came out, I really kind of, yeah, I just felt like especially, you know, the 2 main characters, their sort of trials and tribulations with their own sexualities. And I mean, one of the characters isn't even gay, it doesn't sort of recognise himself as gay, he's just got another sort of sexual kink, if you like. But yeah, their stories and how they're misunderstood and how they're scared of how the world would see them. Yeah, it's just beautifully written, and yeah, I was a little bit emotional towards the end of reading this, and I really do hope it wins the Walter Scott Prize for historical fiction. I'm still waiting for the shortlist to come out. Hopefully that's the next few days now. But that was the 4th book I read. I was only expecting to read 4 books, but I finished those in plenty of time, so I then picked up Cudi by Benjamin Myers. This is another book on the long list for the Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction. I'm expecting both The New Life and Cudi to make the shortlist. We'll see, hopefully I'll find out in the next few days. Cudi is a wonderfully brilliant package of literature. It's innovative, it's experimental, it's split into 4 if you like, and you've got the first section being sort of, I think it's 987 AD or around there, and it's detailing these monks and a couple of other travellers who are travelling with Cudi's body to try and find his final resting place, keeping him safe from the Vikings. And it's written in so many different prose. You've got poetry, mainly where, you know, you've got a character speaking to Cudi in poetry. You've got other sorts of prose. You've got one of the main characters' visions in this weird optician's eye chart prose. But still, on its own, you think, oh, okay, it's... and then you get the second bit, which is set in the 1100s, I believe, after the cathedral's been built, and it's kind of like a love story-ish, but the main heroine in this is already married to a bit of a brute, and how her life is affected by being near Cudi. And that's kind of the second person narrative, which is quite weird. It kind of mixes up a bit, but it works, and I really enjoyed it. It's probably my favourite part of the book. The third bit was in terms of a journal entry with a few letters in there, and that dealt with the 1800s Victorian era of an academic who was asked to come and watch Cudi's body be exhumed and the profound effect that had on him. And then the last story is about a young boy from, I think it was just a couple of years ago, 2019, and he's pretty hard up. He lives with his mum. They struggle for money. His mum doesn't work, she's very ill. And we see how, when he gets a job working at the cathedral, how that has an effect on him and his family. And it's just, altogether, it's just such a wonderful, joyous experience of literature, one that I never knew could exist, but I thank Benjamin Myers for that. I really do love it. And even though I do love it, I still want The New Life to win. But I wouldn't be mad if Cudi won the Walter Scott Prize. And that was the 5th book I read. And then I finished the month off with Wward by Amelia Hart. Going back to some comfort reads, if you like. This is wonderfully bewitching. Set over 3 different stories, 3 different generations of the same family. We've got the 1600s, we've got 1942, and then 2019. And it's all how these women go on their own kind of journey of self-discovery and female empowerment. You know, they've all suffered or suffering abuse at the hands of men, and it's how they reconnect to their heritage and to nature, and how that empowers them to kind of fight back and be like, hey, up yours. You know, I am me and you're not going to mess with me. Yeah, great comfort read. I absolutely loved it. I couldn't recommend it enough if you like that sort of thing. If you like tales of witches, especially in the UK. Anyway, so those are the books that I read in the month of April. Now, what am I going to read in May? So I have already started with Armour Down by Wilkie Collins. I'm about 300 pages in-ish. There's about 800 pages. Yeah, I'm loving it at the moment, to be honest. I'm glad I stuck with Wilkie Collins, because The Dead Secret, although I didn't mind it, I enjoyed it for what it wasn't really riveting. It was very one note, whereas this, already 300 pages in, is layered. It's got so many different subplots going on, so many different characters. You do really, and this is what I've been saying before, like with Victorian literature, I feel like sometimes I have to go a bit slow, take it all in, and kind of think about what I'm reading so I can understand it fully, and you definitely need to do this with Armour Down. Yeah, it's just so many layers built up on each other, and at the moment, yeah, I'm 300 pages in, I'm not even halfway through, and it's just, you know, something happening all the time, something juicy, something else is happening, it's constantly something going on. Some of the characters are really interesting as well, so I'm really enjoying Armour Down. However, after Armour Down, I have decided that I want to try and read both the shortlist for the Women's Prize for Fiction and also the shortlist for the Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction. So, I've got already these 3 books, which are the first 3 on the shortlist for the Women's Prize for Fiction. That's Anne Enright, The Wren No Wren. I've got that. I've got Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy. And I've got Enter Ghost by Isabella Hammett. So they're the 3 that I've got so far. I've got the other 3 on order, and also I'm waiting for the Walter Scott Prize shortlist to come out. I'm hoping the New Life and Cudi will already be on it, so that means I should only have like another 4, maybe 5, I don't know how many will be on the shortlist. I think it was 7 last year, to read. I think both will be announced sort of mid-June, so that kind of gives me about 6 weeks to maybe read, what, 6, 7, 8 books? Which is plenty doable once I finished Armour Down, which is going to take a little while, but I'm going to try and crack on with that. So yeah, that's what my plans are for May, probably go into the first part of June as well. Probably take me right up to the announcements to read all of them, and then I'll try and do a little sort of review of what I thought of both the Women's Prize for Fiction and also the Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction, and maybe give my guess at who might win. It's my first year doing it, so I'll probably get it absolutely wrong, but that's going to be my plans. I feel like, you know, I love Victorian literature. I've been loving the historical fiction that I've read, but I feel if I'm going to be a better reader, a better literature student, but also a better writer, I want to read, you know, lots of different things. I want to expand my horizons, if you like, and pick up books that maybe I wouldn't pick up. And that's why I was kind of engrossed with the Women's Prize for Fiction, because there seemed like there was some really interesting stories there. So these are going to be the first 3 that I read after Armour Down, and then I'll pick up the, I think I've got the other 3 on order. I've got a few others as well. I think I've got, so I saw there was a prize for a crime novel, the Theakston Crime Novel Prize, which kind of took my fancy. I've never really been into crime fiction, but there was a couple that sounded really good, so I've actually got a few from the long list of that. I'm not going to buy all of them. I'm just never going to have the time to read all of them, but I picked a few that looked pretty good. So I've got quite a few books on the way, but I'll do a book haul video about that, as I think I've got some up there as well, which I haven't detailed in a book haul video. But anyway, that is my plans for May. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, if you've got any suggestions or recommendations, please put them in the comments. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.